Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Saying 24 TV. This is the Nationalist show with Kennedy Abong. Our discussion today is about the intention by RUTO's administration to privatize most of government-owned enterprises. So, before we go into that topic, do kindly subscribe, click that notification bell so that you're notified whenever we post. So the genesis of this thing, I think it is now gaining traction that the intention of President Ruto is to have most of the government-owned enterprises privatized. So speaking today at the Nairobi Security Exchange, Ruto indicated that his government will adopt policies that will ensure that government-owned enterprises are easily privatized. This is a move away from the current framework, which makes it so difficult to privatize government owned enterprises. So, for those who do not understand what privatization means, it means that state-owned enterprises are now going to be left in the hands of private individuals. So either government is going to sell its shares, the whole of it, or just divest it to a certain a level which would make it now a minority shareholder. But now private individuals will control or manage the affairs of such enterprises. So essentially it means the management of such enterprises will also shift from public to private. Ordinarily, public enterprises are not profit driven. They are established to ensure that they work for the best interest of members of the public and not necessarily to make profits. When you privatize a public enterprise, then the core goal of such an enterprise or the newly formed enterprise would be to make profit for the sake of the shareholders, because essentially that is what private businesses do. They make profits. So take for instance Kenya Power. Currently the government, it's a government-owned enterprise because government controls most of the shares. It's the majority shareholder. So if you leave such an enterprise to the hands of private individuals, then it becomes a private-owned enterprise. So it will ordinarily now concentrate more on making profits. So proponents of privatization argue that it is essential in boosting efficiency and quality. Not only that, it can also lead to cost cutting and greater attraction, rather due to greater attraction or concentration on customer satisfaction. So because they'll be seeking profits, their main concern would be how to satisfy customers. So that argument has been the basis for privatizing most government enterprises. And indeed, President Ruto, while speaking today, also intimated to that kind of argument that the intention is to ensure that efficiency will now become the order of the day. However, that is not always the case when it comes to these things. It is not automatic that if you privatize, then efficiency will automatically set in. The notion, therefore, is more theoretical than practical. Take healthcare, for instance. Right now, we are experiencing a lot of difficulty accessing healthcare because the cost of healthcare is very expensive. If you consider the private hospitals, if you go to them, because those hospitals concentrate majorly to make profits, the cost of accessing such private hospitals is so high. So imagine Kenyatta, which is a national hospital and controlled by government, being privatized. What are we going to do? What does that mean to members of the public? It means that so many people, especially the poor, would not be able to access these services at an affordable prices. Because how can you ensure that a private enterprise work for the interest of the public other than the private individuals whose main goal is seeking profit. What guarantee will we have as hustlers or as people in the lower cadre that these businesses will actually work for us? There is no such guarantee. So the only person who can ensure that that guarantee is there is the government. And how can it do that? It can only do that by now making a lot or bringing in more regulation. So that will then come after the fact, which essentially is what you want to avoid by privatizing a lot of these businesses, so that you can allow capitalism to thrive, so people can make profit. But now when you realize that the intention, which was to create efficiency, has now turned to something else, which essentially is to pursue profits at all cost, then it will require again government to intervene. And intervention sometimes will again lead to government trying to take back control of these kind of enterprises. So are we setting ourselves for a vicious circle where government is ceding control and eventually now coming in to also take it at a later day? Another thing is that privatization may lead to monopoly, which again can hurt members of the public. Take Kenya Power, for instance. The monopoly that Kenya Power enjoys, even as a public company, government-controlled enterprise, make it more the monopoly itself. And you see, such a business is not really intended to pursue profits to the core. But if, assuming that Kenya Power is now privatized, the monopoly that will come with such power that it will wield, in addition to being privatized and then with its core goal to pursue profits, how will the common mwananchi be impacted by such moves? So these are questions that we really need to ask ourselves. What is the intention of President Ruto to privatize these public-owned enterprises? And how best can hustlers be protected so that they ensure that even as privatization happens, then people will still be able to access services at the best prices possible. So the first thing, in my view, would not really to privatize, but also to improve public-owned or rather government-owned enterprises, to ensure that there is a bit of efficiency, not by privatizing. There are other ways you can privatize, you can achieve efficiency, but not necessarily by privatizing government-owned enterprises. We need it for now because so many people are not able or will not be able to keep up with the manner in which or the cost of private-owned enterprises, the services cost of private-owned enterprises. Ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end of our discussion today. Do leave a comment if you think that it is a good move by President Ruto or whether it is a bad move to privatize government-owned enterprises. Thank you very much.